Welcome back to another episode of STEM in Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales, and today we are going to discuss from blind spots to bright futures, women redefining their financial success. Today we are going to be talking with a guest that I've been looking forward to for a while now, Brooke Dean. Brooke is not just another advisor preaching from a pedestal. She has been through the trenches, through toxic relationships, messed up family dynamics, illness, and the death of a parent. Brooke has pushed through again and again, refusing to settle for less, and believes that all women can take charge of their money and step out of the dark when it comes to their finances. She has more than 2 decades of experience in the financial industry and has built up $1 million revenue wealth management practice that specializes in working with high net worth women and their families. She educates her clients to grow their wealth with confidence and clarity about what truly matters to them. She holds her CFP, that's a Certified Financial Planner designation, along with an RRC, a Registered Retirement Consultant, and a TEP, a Trust and Estate Practitioner, along with her CIM, which is Certified Investment Manager. So she's got all of the credentials. She also teaches Investing 101 to adults at Chinook College in Calgary, Alberta. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you with me today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Sophia. And yeah, sorry about all the acronyms there.
Well, if you know anything about women, we tend to acquire as many acronyms as we can.
Exactly, we do. I know there's something about that, hey?
I think some of it has to do with, as women, we're raised with, you have to prove your qualifications before you can ask anybody to do anything with you. And that's not the case with the guys. The guys pick them up as an afterthought as they go along, more than a preemptive strike, if you will.
Oh, 100%. I was just going to say, I remember when I started out and it was like, until I have my CFP, then, people will start taking me seriously. And then a lot of my male cohort, they're like, I'll get that later. I'm going to go out and just start working. So it's
Yeah.
just funny the different frame of mind for that.
Absolutely. And it's one thing that I like to remind women of because so often we put all these hurdles between us and the thing we want to do. And then we wonder why we're not making as much as the guys.
Mm.
And it's what I want to say. It's not your fault, but we need to shine a light on it
Yes.
because you were raised with this. This was patterned into your subconscious from a small child. It's not your fault that you got this idea that's going to stand between you and what you want. But now that we know it's there, let's get rid of it.
Absolutely. No, and I love that. And thank you for bringing that up. Because, yeah, the whole confidence thing and having to apologize for everything and be the good girl and all of that versus men, they're raised like, go out and do it. And if you get in trouble, that's okay. You're a boy. And
Yeah,
girls were
unapologetically stand in your stuff and go,
exactly.
oh, my bad,
Yeah.
and take care of whatever it was.
Yeah. So, can we take some of that for ourselves? That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've had that in your mind, here's your hall pass to try something
Absolutely.
different.
Yes. 100%. Do it.
So tell me, what brought you into the financial industry? What was
Yeah.
the attraction there? What weird twist in your life brought you here?
Yeah, it was a few things. I think I'm a huge animal lover. We talked about this previously. And originally, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That's where I was going. And I ended up working with a vet clinic. And I was like, I cannot handle seeing sick pets all the time. And it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So then I did that whole pivot to, okay, now I'm just going to do business. It's clean. We're looking at computers. We don't have to do any of that.
And whatever
And
animals come into the office are generally healthy and happy.
exactly, exactly. And we love those pets that come into the office. But yeah, in school, I really accelerated in business courses and finance courses. And so I just went on that way. But to add on top of that, my dad was also a financial planner and his
Ah,
father was a financial planner. So it was ingrained in me as I was growing up, but I wasn't from the start like, oh, this is what I'm going to do,
going
carry
into
on
the
the
family business, yeah.
exactly. I was like, no, I'm probably good. But then it just unfolded that way. And I actually really enjoyed it. So it was lucky that way for sure.
Very good. Now, I know from my time as an entrepreneur or a self-employed person and talking to a lot of entrepreneurs here, And having been in the financial world myself for a number of years, I was in the mortgage side of things as well as like credit repair and that kind of stuff. I'm aware of what the traditional financial advice is, and I'm also acutely aware as a self-employed person, as an entrepreneur, that it doesn't fit very well. So, what are some of the blind spots in the financial industry right now when it comes to self-employed entrepreneurs and especially women?
Yeah, I would say it's several things. Historically, it's built for the average male worker, right? We assume these linear careers and interrupted income. We're not looking at when women take time off to be financial caregivers, or we're looking at staying home with a baby or anything like that. So that
Right.
kind of takes away from that, along with pay gaps, which we've seen are still there, which is mind blowing in
Yes,
2025.
exactly. The equal pay did not actually get us equal pay.
Right. And we thought we'd
Yeah.
be there by now. So we're still working on that one. And then I think a big part of it is the emotional and relational aspects of money. Females, women, we really have emotions with that decision making. So a lot of times investment advice focuses more on like aggressive, buy the best thing that's going to have the best rate of return, and don't even, that's all that matters is rate of return. And really, a lot of women, it's like, can we step back here? Like, what are we doing here
Yeah,
before we put?
exactly. I don't really agree with how that company operates in the world. Do I really want to put my money there, even if they're raking it in hand over fist? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then just, of course, like you work really hard for your money. And especially, like I said, if you're making less than your male counterparts or whatever, you really want to make sure you're doing the right thing with that money. So you're a little more hesitant about making those steps. And I feel like typical financial or traditional financial advice doesn't look so much at the emotion and the why, which I
Yeah.
think is really important.
Absolutely. So I know you've worked with women specifically, and I assume you've worked with some men in financial
For
planning
sure.
in the past as well. How have you noticed that women think about their money differently? And is it a good thing, a bad thing, an indifferent thing?
Yeah, I would think it's definitely a strength. There's kind of like that whole, can we use what this is for a strength rather than letting us hold us back? Women were more likely to focus on security and sustainability and more of that long term impact rather than, like I said, chasing the hottest stock. But women, we tend to do a little bit more research, or maybe we're going to actually just trust our advisor based on, they know us and our story, and we want to do that. When I have meetings with a couple, a lot of times the male, the husband, he's going, okay, yeah, no, I'm good with growth. Let's just do that. And I always want to pivot to the wife or the significant other female and say, is this what you want to? Are you okay with this kind of growth? And then all of a sudden it's like, not actually, but I know, like, I don't know about this. And they get really quiet about it because they don't want to say the wrong thing or come off like they don't know anything.
Right. And I think the unspoken thing here, right, when we're talking about growth, right, the guys are seeing the upside potential
Yes. The
and
dollar signs.
frequently downplay the potential for pullback or wipeout that is also inherent in that particular category.
Exactly. And I wonder, just like as women, how we're kind of biologically wired to think, okay, like, especially if we have kids or family members to worry about, we're thinking, okay, let's think of all the things that could go wrong because we want to protect our family.
Yeah,
So the
because
kind of with investment.
the kids are
Yeah,
going to college in the next 2 to 3 years, and we might want some of this money. And if we're in the middle of a pull down, what's that going to mean for us? Yeah.
exactly. So wanting to make sure we're being safe. But yeah, trying to change the way of using that strength of, yes, it is important that we use this the correct way, not just let's put everything in really safe conservative things, because that's also a risk because now
Right. Now inflation
everything's.
starts to eat your lunch, and yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So I think it's a strength. And I think that collaborative approach, especially if you have a couple, the best way to make a decision. So let's make sure both of you have a say in this, and let's come out in the middle rather than one way or the other.
Yeah. And I know there are a lot of unpartnered women now, right?
Yes.
For a variety of socioeconomic and personal reasons. You may be without a male counterpart who might be bringing that aggressiveness to the table. How can you, as a woman, what I want to say, get that counterpoint in your life if you're not like naturally aggressive?
Yeah, I think that's one of the, I'd say, positives of working with an advisor. Not saying you have to. If you love doing it yourself, that's definitely more power to you for sure. But if you are using an advisor, that's where I work with the women who I work with who are, yes, they're single, widowed, divorced, and they're going, I'm comfortable with this, but if you tell me that we should maybe go into something that's a little more growth oriented, as long as I understand it and it makes sense, then I'd like to do that. So I think it's that team approach, working with my clients to do that and have them see the risk of not actually investing in more growth.
Yeah, true, true, true. So I mentioned earlier that as a self-employed person,
Yes.
that there are some challenges with traditional finance and investing advice. One of them assumes that you get a regular paycheck and you can set aside X amount every week to blah, 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 blah. That's not how my cash flows as a business owner.
Exactly. Little different.
Yeah, what advice do you have for someone who's in that weird cash flow sort of thing that comes with being an entrepreneur or self-employed?
Yeah, and it's a hard one, especially if you're starting up or even like in those earlier stages and you're not sure when that cash flow is coming in. And then if you do have the cash flow come in, you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to put it right back into the business,
Yeah,
which
I've got a bunch of stuff I've committed to, and there's employee salaries and there's all this stuff, right?
exactly. So it's hard kind of finding that balance where you want to make sure you're also paying yourself a bit and also taxes. Like, biggest mistake I always see is people all of a sudden, a year's gone by and they're going, oh, I didn't put away any money for taxes, and then all of a sudden they have this big bill, and that can really be detrimental to your business if you haven't put
Yeah.
away anything. So
That's one of the things that I've always been pretty paranoid about as a self-employed
good.
person. It's like, okay,
Good.
I've got money coming in, and I know the tax man's going to want a certain amount. And so I usually have a fund that goes into, and then I make it a point to like check on it quarterly and make sure we're on the track we need to be. Because, yeah, no, I don't want a 5 or 6 figure surprise when it comes to tax
Exactly.
filing. Yeah.
Yes. So perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you do that. And I think every small business owner or self-employed person needs to do that for sure. And also keeping your finances separate from the business. I know some people, when I meet them, I hear they're commingling everything and they don't know
Mm,
what's business, what's theirs, what can be written off, what can be deducted, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So it's like,
exactly.
make sure you keep those very separate and you'll save yourself a big headache as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of that situation goes back to how you started your business because some of us are accidental entrepreneurs. It's like you had this thing you did as a hobby or a one-off for somebody, and then it started to catch on, and all of a sudden now you've got like a legit business that you're now trying
Yeah.
to scramble and create an entity for and separate all that stuff out. And yeah, so the sooner you realize you have a business, the
Exactly.
better.
I know. No, and I've heard that so many times with just, and I find especially women, because yeah, it starts out as a hobby or a passion project, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this could actually become something. So yeah, then it's like, okay, let's start putting any money that comes in from your business or your hobby, just put it in a separate checking account or
Yeah,
whatever, at least to keep it separate. So
exactly. I think that's stage one, even before
yes,
you have an entity. At least if you've got that separate account, and it's not very expensive to have a separate account. A lot of times you can find free ways to have a separate account.
absolutely.
It just makes keeping things straight so much easier.
Yeah. And you know that self-employed, like being organized is your biggest friend, really. Because it's when you start getting stressed out about everything in your finances and everything, you don't know where this is. And if you don't have a bookkeeper, you're doing your own accounting,
Yeah.
that's more stress. And then you're trying to run this business on top of that. And it's hard to do that when you have all these other things in the background.
Yeah, it starts to get overwhelming. And especially if you started as a solopreneur or it was a passion project or something, I think it's easy to go, I just have to do all this myself because I'm not making all of this money. But it's not that expensive to get somebody who can organize for you.
Yes. No,
I
that's such a
mean,
good point.
and so if you're one of these people that financial stuff overwhelms you easily, go get yourself a bookkeeper. They're really not that expensive,
Yeah.
and you will sleep so much better at night and you'll have so much less headache and more bandwidth to do the thing that you really want to do, right?
I
Because you
agree.
started it as a passion project.
Yes, yes. And yeah, bookkeeper, like you said, you don't even have to do it every month. Have them do it quarterly or,
Yep,
whatever to save
exactly.
a bit of money. But oh yeah, it's a lot to learn all of that yourself on top of already trying to like
It
run a
really
business.
is. It really is because it's not as simple as, well, just write down who the check is to or from and total the thing at the side. There are some nuances and complexity that go in that bookkeepers have that will save you money. They will pay for
Hmm.
themselves.
Yeah,
So
it goes back to that. You don't know what you don't know. So kind of let the professional help you out that way.
absolutely. And if you're a heavy DIY person, I mean, it's always possible to hire one to get you properly set up
Yeah.
and to teach you what you need to know. And again, it's going to save you so much headache to
Yes,
do it
that's
that way. It's definitely worth making the small investment to make that happen.
no, that's a great tip for people starting out with businesses.
So, speaking of businesses, there's always this tension between reinvesting in the business and paying your own self. And I really want to dig in with that into that with you, but we are up on our first break. So I'm going to put a pin in that question.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm going to invite everyone who's joined us today for this conversation, grab your pen, grab your piece of paper, and spend some time around the places where money makes you uncomfortable. Are there places in your finance that don't feel good right now? Are you overwhelmed with understanding where everything's going? Whatever that thing is for you, are you uncomfortable trying to collect on unpaid invoices? What is the thing that's up for you around money right now? And hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, shout it loud, but we'll hear. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No, no fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm here with the amazing and wonderful Brooke Dean. And I had a question that I was posing to you before we went to break, which is, how do we balance this need and the desire to reinvest in our business with making sure that we're taking care of ourselves today? How do we start to strike that balance? Because it is important to feed your baby,
Hmm.
and it's important to feed your babies. So,
Exactly. No, that's so true. It's really hard because you can really get into that, again, feeding your baby, your new business or whatever your passion project that you've started up. You want to make sure you're putting everything into that, but you really need to make sure you're also paying yourself first and taking care of your base personal financial needs as well. So I usually suggest start with some simple software, or if you have a spreadsheet, just something simple and just figure out how much you need to meet your monthly needs and make sure with your business that you're taking care of that. And then decide on a percentage of whatever comes in, how much are you going to put towards yourself and how much are you going to put back into the business? Because, yeah, you definitely don't want to put everything back into the business. Sometimes you feel like you should,
yeah, and
but
it's tempting. There are moments where it's like, if I do this, it'll put us so much farther ahead.
exactly. But then you don't want to be in a ton of debt if you don't have to. That's the thing, too, is some people put so much back into the business and then all of a sudden now they have all this personal debt and now they
Because
have
they've
to deal.
been making up with living on their credit card or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So we don't want that either. So as much as you can split it, and obviously depending, sometimes if you're not doing this full time, maybe it's a part-time thing right now. Maybe that can go all into the business if you have another job that's paying your personal. But yeah, for those people where we're just living off what the business is bringing in, yes, you need to make sure that your needs are first before you continue to reinvest.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. What if we've already been doing this and we're in a tight spot, right? We have been living on the credit cards and putting everything back into the business. How do we start to shift this imbalance and bring ourselves more into a financial center?
Right. And no time like the present, obviously. It's like the best was yesterday, but the next best is today. So don't shame yourself. Don't be like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. We're all learning. We all make mistakes. That's how we get better. So I think just if you're in that situation right now, okay, let's start to look at how can we start to pay off some of those credit cards, come up with a debt repayment plan. So even if you're doing a few $100 on the credit card, make sure when that business income comes in, you're paying off some of those credit cards. And any of that high interest debt you want to get rid of as soon as possible. And then, yeah, if there's some debt that's maybe on a line of credit that's secured or something like that's less interest, maybe that's not as high priority. But yeah, when you're paying those 20% plus, get rid of those as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I'm going to recommend, if you found yourself in this place, a lot of times it comes from having made decisions under poor emotional environment. When stuff happens, right? And we're living here, stuff is always going to happen. It's possible to say, okay, fine, we'll just put it on the credit card and we'll deal with that tomorrow. And that's fine in that moment. But guess what? Tomorrow has arrived. And now we need to figure out a sensible thing to do with that. So I recommend, once you've got that breathing space, actually talking to a professional about what your options are, because a lot of times there are options to move that to a lower interest rate or to find other ways to restructure this stuff so it's not eating you alive while you're trying to dig your way out of it. Because it's easy to go, my credit rating's not so great. I've got all this stuff on the credit cards and I don't have options. But if you sit with a professional, they can show you what the options are to restructure that in a way that makes it manageable, that makes it more feasible to pay down and get out of it faster.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And I think also having that person who's in your corner as well, so you don't feel like you're alone with all this debt and you're not sure what
Yes.
to do
And you
anymore.
have to have all the answers. Yeah, no, you have to
Exactly.
have all the answers.
No, nobody does. Well, that's why we all, even professionals, will reach out to other professionals. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's the same reason that doctors don't do surgery on themselves, right? You
exactly.
know, you don't have the right perspective on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, like you said, looking at other options for debt, because yeah, you might not realize that actually you could consolidate all of this credit card debt on a loan or something like that and be paying less overall. And you actually have a payment plan versus the credit cards, which there's no payment plan. It's just, like you
Just,
said, tomorrow, but tomorrow has
yeah,
arrived.
exactly. Tomorrow has arrived. Now we need to do something sensible.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's not that what you did originally wasn't sensible in that moment. Sometimes you do what you have to do
Absolutely.
under the constraints you have. But now, today, we're going to identify different constraints.
Absolutely.
So, what are some of the more common mistakes that you see women business owners make? What are the most frequent ones, and what should we be watching for so we don't step into these traps?
Um, I would say, like we said, not paying yourselves first. You definitely want to do that. I would say also commingling the personal and the business. I guess we've gone over a few of these already.
Yeah, we've stepped on a couple of these.
I would say too, underpricing yourselves, as we talked about in the beginning with confidence. Don't feel like like whatever you're selling, like that's worth something and you need to sell it properly at the right price. So yeah, obviously doing your research and making sure you're making a profit, not just survival, because that's not going to get you anywhere if you're barely getting through paying your bills.
Yeah, let's talk about pricing for a minute because I know as women, we tend to think we have to earn our value before someone should give us our value.
Mm-hmm.
You see that a lot with like job offers. We'll get a job offer like, oh, great, they chose me, and we'll just accept it as written. And it's sort of like going to a market in the third world and just taking the price that they give you. Okay, they expect you to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
And that offer is made in the spirit of we expect you to negotiate. And so the employer is going to do their low bid as an opener. And as women, we go, oh, I'm so happy you chose me. I'm going to validate your trust in me. And in a year or so, I expect you to make it different. And what's going to happen in a year or so is you're going to get maybe a 3% raise, which will
Yeah.
barely keep you up with inflation, probably doesn't right now. And then you wonder why the guy in the desk next to you is making 5 grand more and maybe got an even better raise because he's been doing a few things you haven't been. First, he negotiated that offer. He probably got a signing bonus. He probably got some other concessions, probably got a higher salary because he opened that negotiation and did that negotiation. And so now he's getting 3% of more than you started with because you didn't negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
So his
And
3% is going to be bigger than yours.
absolutely. And I think that's where we need to dig into that anger part of us where it's like, this is unfair. And we're trying to be the nice person, the caring person. And like, no, they'll pay me what I'm worth. No, they won't.
Yeah,
Maybe you'll find a good boss who does see that. Absolutely. But we'll
yeah,
say the majority, they're trying to also meet their bottom line and, get you for the
exactly.
lowest rate. Right. So I think one thing I've learned, and I'm sure you've learned as well, is no one else is going to bat for you. Like you have to do it yourself. So
That's right.
yeah, it's kind of cliche, but be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, and I think that goes back around to like pricing. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we have almost too much compassion and empathy for the buyer. It's like, well, I want them to get the best value and the most value for their money. Yes, totally. You want them to feel like they're getting a good value proposition, but you are also not Walmart.
Exactly. Walmart is, yeah, they price for a reason because they're,
Yeah, you are not going to make it up on volume. And when you consider that what you're providing, especially if this was a passion project or something that you're like literally putting your hands on in order to deliver to this person, this is a premier service. You are likely
yes,
customizing this and tailor making it to the person that you're giving it to. And that has value. That has a lot of value. If you look at the cost of a J.C. Penney suit or a bespoke suit that has been created on Savile Row, okay,
mm-hmm.
there's a reason that that sucker is 4 and 5 figures, right? Because it has been
Exactly.
customized to the person that's ordering it. And the J.C. Penney suit you can probably get for 99 bucks on sale.
Absolutely.
Don't be J.C. Penney's because you're
Yes.
not, because you're providing that bespoke experience a lot of times when it's one of these passion project things. So price it accordingly.
Yeah, I even think like my Etsy, like I
Yeah,
love buying things on Etsy because the people who sell that, like you can tell they put everything into it. It's good quality. And like you said, it's usually customized. And yeah, I do pay more for that, but I'm willing to pay more for that versus just going to one of the online retailers that pumps everything out and the
yeah,
quality might not be the best.
exactly. And it certainly is not customized to you. They've sold multiple thousands of units of this
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
There are a bunch of people out in the world that have this.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think pricing is something we need as women to sit with a lot of times because if you look at women owned businesses versus men owned businesses, women do more with the resources that they have. In other words, they'll produce more money with whatever money they have.
Yeah.
But we also tend to cap ourselves at around 50 to $70,000 a year, which is subsistence level. And I'm here to change some of that because, sister, you will do a lot more good in this world if you're doing more than just subsisting.
Yes, preach to that because it's true. We need more women who work hard, have the heart, making more money. You can put back more into the world. It's not about, I know I hear some people when they're growing up, they're like, we didn't have a lot of money, and the people who did have money, they weren't great people. And you have to work through some of that financial trauma and shame, I guess,
Yeah,
and realize you can have money and be a good person and do good things. And that's kind of like a
exactly.
shout out to your listeners saying, If you're a good person, then you deserve to make more money and you deserve to get out there and share what
Yeah.
you have to give to the world.
And I think there's this myth, right, that money will change you or somehow
Hmm.
pervert who you are. And one of the things that I've noticed about money is it's a tool and it shares a lot in common with alcohol.
Mm.
Okay. And what you will notice with alcohol, because we've all had people in our lives who drink, is it makes them more of what they already are. If they're funny and hysterical and outgoing, they become more of that. If they're adventurous, they become more bold and adventurous. And if they're
Mm.
dicks, they become more assholes.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
And I think money is very similar. It doesn't make you bad or evil or nasty, but it does bring out more of who you are. And so if you are a generous, loving, supportive person, you're going to be more generous and loving and supportive in more concrete ways than you've been able to in the past.
That's a great metaphor. I really like that because I've noticed that as well. When I have clients who've come into a large sum of money, it doesn't change them. If anything, they're like, maybe we should force ourselves to spend more of this. And I have to say, yeah, enjoy some of this money.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, it's just that whatever happens, habits, and yeah, who you are as a person, it's just going to bring that out even more, like you said, with the alcohol.
I love that. So we are up on our second break already. And I like to give a little bit of thought homework as we go over the break. The last one was to think about the places where your money story is kind of pinching you. And I think on this break, what I would like to have you reflect upon is if you were to have more abundance in this world, whether it's a big windfall like you won the lottery, or if you could just improve your earning by 3 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand a month, whatever that number is for you, what would that allow you to do, be, and express into this world that you currently are restricted around? Spend some time on what that additional money would allow you to do or be that you're currently restricted around. And spend some time with that. We'll be right back from the break and we'll dig more into the money habit that separates a successful, thriving entrepreneur from one that's just scraping by. So stick with us.
Oh, checked it loud, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am back with the amazing and wonderful Brooke Dean. And before we went to break, I asked you to spend some time thinking about what an additional influx of money would allow you to do or be in this world that you currently have not been able to do or be. So, Brooke, would you like to answer that question for us here today? What is your next inspirational goal?
I think I have a book coming out. I'm just in the process of having it published, but one of those I just would like to get out there more, bigger audience to share and dig into what we were saying, your money story or her money story, and how, yeah, it's not just about covering the bills, but how can we look into what's life really about? And yeah, those deep questions, because money helps us. Like you said, it's a tool, it's an energy to help us accomplish those things we want to. So that's kind of mine. And
So
I'll
I'm
see.
hearing there's book promotional activity that would happen with that.
That's just my next inspirational, getting my book
Yeah.
published. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And books are so amazingly impactful. It's one of the few things that you put out in this world that survives and will outsurvive you. It has the ability to outsurvive you in the way that, like a website or an email or something like that, it does not have that same capability.
yeah, and that's what a lot of people, publishers, and I worked with a book coach as well and asked, why do you want to write this book? Because a lot of people say, oh, I want to get famous, I want to make a bunch of money. Most books and 99% of people don't get
Don't
either of
do any of
those
that.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my reason was, yeah, to help women as much as I can, because it was one of those like, obviously in my circle, I can only answer so many things. But yeah, if I can get out this book that can hopefully last the test of time kind of thing, it would be great to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I asked a question before we went on break, besides the homework. And so tell us, what is the money habit that really separates your thriving women entrepreneurs from those that are just squeaking by and like making that subsistence income?
I would say the number one thing is like a money date, like setting apart a little bit of time every week or maybe once a month, depending on how organized or disorganized you are at this moment in time, and just see where you're at. Because I would say the ones that are having a hard time, kind of, yeah, let's sweep it under the rug and we'll deal with that when we have to. I'm just
I
trying to
know
get
I
by.
don't want to think about it. I don't hear it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're doing yourself a disservice by just rip off the band-aid. Let's see how bad it is. That's okay. And
Yeah.
whatever it is, there's a plan. And then as you continue to work on that plan and build it up, you get in that habit of now I always check in. I'm always on top of my own finances as well as my business
Yeah.
finances. So I think that's probably the number one.
I like that you framed it as a money date. This is a money
Mm.
date because a lot of us don't really have a relationship with our money, or if we do, it's like a bad boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I imagine the first few of those are probably emotionally challenging, right? Because we've come from this place where of disempowerment and confusion and overwhelm and some of this negative stuff that goes with money sometimes, along with the mental trash that goes, well, women aren't good with money, or whatever your stories are back there that are disempowering. So I think it can take some courage to do the first one.
Oh, definitely. And I like to say, find something as a reward, I guess. And it doesn't have to be monetary, maybe not monetary, but just, yeah, even like a nice glass of wine or a nice piece of cake or something like that to be like, okay, if I do this, then I get this. Cause sometimes you need that motivation. Cause otherwise it's just,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to look at all the horrible things that are going on.
Yeah, and
You're
I
probably
just
going to put that off.
don't really want to do that. And I find when I'm putting things off, that if I put a date on my calendar that doesn't include someone else, I'm
Mm.
far more likely to put that off than if I have a date that includes someone else. So, I mean, there are a few possibilities for who you can have on your money date with you. Who do you recommend? Clearly, if you have a significant other, that would be a good person.
Yeah, significant other, or a lot of times I find women who are in small businesses, they tend to know other women who are also in small businesses. So if you can find that colleague in a sense who's dealing with something similar and the both of you can plan to get together and do that, that can be a way of being accountable.
Yeah, and I find it's helpful also, especially when you're an entrepreneur, to have other entrepreneur friends
Yes, so
because
important.
they get it so much more than anyone in your life will ever get it. Because entrepreneurs are wired a little special. You know, we're
Mm-hmm.
not in it for a 9 to 5 paycheck a lot of times. We're not in it for having other people tell us what to do. But then you end up in this silo, and sometimes it's helpful to have someone who's in another silo to share their insights from
Absolutely.
having been through these particular trenches.
Yeah, and realizing the trade-offs because I always hear, and I'm sure you have too, it's like, oh, you're so lucky, you have flexibility, you do what you want when you want. Yeah, but I also don't get to go on holidays and not think about work. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My boss is really cool about giving me time off, but then is also a bitch about not letting me stop thinking about work.
exactly. Yeah. So it's nice to have those friends really, because they end up
Yeah.
usually becoming friends when you're dealing on the ground with all that stuff.
Absolutely. So those are some good options. And if you don't have an entrepreneurial friend that you feel comfortable sharing something like that with, it's always possible to get a financial advisor or even a bookkeeper
Yeah,
who
that's what I
can
was going to say
who
too.
can
Find
have these
someone.
conversations with you.
Yeah, and
Um,
I find even financial advisors, like as obviously everything goes up in cost,
yeah,
fortunately, us as financial advisors and planners have had to start setting minimums. And it's not because we
yeah,
don't want to work with people under that, it's because we're limited, obviously, with the cost of everything.
exactly.
But I find if you can find a good financial advisor who's willing to just even take a half an hour and just get you started. There's people like that for sure.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's out there now in this internet economy that we have, there are courses you can take,
Yes.
right? You can invest a couple $100 to go through a course that gets you financially organized. And then you've got that structure. You've got people who are working through the same kind of process you are, whether they're entrepreneurs or non-entrepreneurs. At least there's that structure. And sometimes the structure is the thing that's needed to start to make it happen.
Exactly. And it's almost inspiring too a bit because then you feel motivated now that you have that structure to do this versus I don't even know where to start.
Right. And once you have it organized, coming back and looking at it, it becomes a lodestone, and it also becomes a way to measure progress.
Hmm.
Because if you scrape everything into a pile this month and you go, okay, the debt is this and the income is this, and yeah, maybe it's pretty bleak, but then you come back and you look at it in a month now that you've been applying different approaches and changing a few things about how you're managing your money, you can start to see the progress. Okay, the debt is now this smaller number, and I've increased my savings in this way so that when some life happens, because it does, that there's
Hmm.
some place I can go, right? It doesn't have to be a credit card. We've got savings, right?
Right. And that's what I was going to say. That's one of the other things I also think with thriving women who are entrepreneurs do as well is they purposely allocate funds to emergencies versus, okay, I'll just deal with it when it happens. That's
Yeah.
definitely a little more peace of mind that, oh, okay, this happened, but you know what? Luckily, we have this fund over here exactly for this type of thing.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that, what do I want to say? It helps to cushion the roller coaster ride of the income if you've got some savings set aside on the months where, you know what, the client that was supposed to pay their bill didn't, that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
not the end of the financial world. Okay, I can still pay the bills and we're still going to eat and the mortgage is still going to get handled because I do have a slush fund. Now, I'm
And
still going to go after the client for payment, don't
yes,
get me wrong, but
but know that that will happen because there's always those accounts receivable that you're waiting on.
yeah,
And yeah, having realistic expectations that that's probably going to happen and you're going to be okay if they don't pay or you have at least a backup plan.
yeah, exactly. While they're figuring out how they pay.
Absolutely. Setting up their own payment plan.
Exactly. If we need to put you on payments, we can do that. So
Yes.
let's talk about what that looks like. And by the way, there will be interest.
Absolutely.
And it's going to at least match or exceed my highest interest payment.
Yep, exactly. Again, taking care of yourself and don't get away with okay, I guess, yeah, don't be too
Yeah,
nice. We're always so nice.
exactly. Exactly. It's like, yeah, I can work with you. However, there are
Hmm.
some costs associated with working with you.
Yeah.
That's just is what it is. So, what is, oh, we already talked about the habit that separates thriving women entrepreneurs. And I love the money date. And I would invite you, if the money date is kind of a new concept to you, to put it on your calendar right now. It's one simple small step you can move forward. Put it on your calendar, right? And I know when we put it on our calendar, we have a lot of probably baggage that goes around that. I have to have this ready or I have to have that ready. I'm going to say let all of the what you have to have ready go. Put it on your calendar. Get ready what you can get ready to have that date. And if it's nothing, have that date anyway and use that date to create the what needs to happen and how are we going to make it happen. And then put the next one on your calendar. Because it's not about doing the date perfectly, it's about doing the date.
Definitely. Do
Done
the date.
done beats perfect here. Have
Yeah.
the date, do the date, face it squarely, and then decide when the next date needs to be. And it might be in a week, it might be in 3 days, it might be at the end of the month. You'll determine what frequency makes sense for you. As you're starting out, it might be more frequent, and then it might become a little less frequent as things start to get sorted out. Or it might
Exactly.
become more frequent because you're enjoying seeing the progress.
I was gonna say, yeah, even if you have those money dates now where it's like things are actually doing really well, okay, maybe we want to reevaluate our goals for the business and
Yeah.
adjusting strategies that way.
Exactly. It's not always doom and gloom, although some of the early ones, if you haven't been dealing with your money, could be a little
Yeah.
harsh. But it's not just for the bad times, it's for the good times too, right?
Hmm.
Because it's easy in the good times to go, oh, well, we've got that covered and it's not a big thing, and not pay attention to the things that you need to be paying attention to notice, like the shifts in a market or a shift in client demand. Maybe there's something that people are asking you for that you could or should be providing. And these are moments where you can sit down and reflect on, are some of these opportunities appearing in my world and what are we going to do about them?
Absolutely. No, I
I
think it's,
love that.
yeah, yeah. Because even I think as a business owner, I know I personally like every year, especially, like I'll have what's the plan for the next year? What did last year look like? And yeah, what are my intentions and my goals? And what am I going to do to change things or adapt? And I think every business person needs to have that. I don't even know, drive, if you have the mountains or a favorite restaurant or something, just go and set aside time and don't let any of the distractions in. This is just you focusing on your business.
Exactly. And I like the suggestion of removing yourself from your normal environment. And it doesn't have to cost you anything. I mean, if you can
No,
afford the fancy restaurant, by all means, knock yourself out, the private cabin in the woods or whatever it is. But it can just be you driving your car out to some scenic overlook someplace and spending some
exactly.
time
Yeah.
enjoying the view and contemplating.
Hmm.
So, in our last few seconds here, what are your final words of wisdom and inspiration to the women out there who are growing in their financial path, as we all are?
I would say just keep going and don't give up. I know that sounds cliche sometimes, and you've heard that, but it really, when you're a small business owner, like some days, like it feels like every day you're like, why am I doing this? It's so overwhelming. I want to give up. But honestly, whenever you see those successful business people, you don't see all the days where they just were depressed and in despair and were like, why am I doing this? Every day you get up again and you go through it and you keep doing it, that's what's going to get you where you want to eventually be. And just having those things in your mind and having your brain work towards those things is what's going to get you there, and continuing to do the activities like the money dates, like the paying yourself first,
Yeah.
all those kinds of things.
Read the book Profit First if you haven't. I think that's a
There you go.
really instructive book around a mindset that makes sense for both yourself as a business owner and the business itself. So, yeah, definitely recommend that book to anyone who hasn't read it yet.
Hmm. And yeah, find your other small business network or people, because having that not only accountability, but I guess community to support you and vent
Absolutely.
and cry and be happy as well.
Celebrate. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. There are a few people that get it like another entrepreneur.
absolutely. Very true.
I got this process sorted out, and oh my gosh, I'm sleeping through the night now.
Yes. Not everybody gets that.
I know we're going to put your contact information in the show notes. Do you have anything you'd like to offer our listeners today?
Yeah, I do have a free guide. It's 7 tips to drama-free finances. And one of them I think you'll find especially really interesting. So you can actually download that off my website. And yeah, just a little something to, again, start that structure and get you inspired.
Excellent. So you will find the link to that in the show notes here. Thank you for joining us today, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
And thank you, dear listener, for investing your time with us here today. I know you have a lot of different places you could be spending your time right now. And I appreciate that you have invested this time with us. And I hope we have paid off that investment in a major sort of way. Let me know in the comments what you thought, or drop me a quick email if it's something more private to Zofia, Zofia, at steminstilettos.com. I would love to hear your thoughts on the show, where you think the show should go. And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.